Hey guys, so I'm gonna start reading chapter 3 of My Dad Made a Deal to Save My Life, and now I'm engaged to a vampire prince. The thing is still the same, so yeah. Um, so if you haven't seen the prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2, I suggest you do before you see me or hear me. I don't know when you prefer. Read chapter 3. So, yeah. Well, like I said in my other videos, I have about 15 minutes to read. And I haven't read this out loud yet, so I'm not going to be very good like I was in chapter 2, because I wasn't good in that either. Just so you guys know. I think a bun would be very appropriate. Charity, a statuette woman with scarlet hair, grabbed the lock that had forcefully removed from my braid and twisted it into a bun at the very top of my head. The wise Geneva, with streaks of gray, shook her head. I disagree. The braid was fine, just too informal. The way they made it seem, they had spent the last 2 hours preparing before what had to be the most important night of my life. I sighed, wobbling in my 5-inch heels as I stood before the large mirror they had set up, balancing on the pedestal. They had first curled me into a corset and laced me in tight, pulling my dress over my head. Then came the makeup, a grueling process that involved powdering my skin until it was porcelain, clipping my nails, and crimpling my eyelashes. I don't know what any of that is because I don't wear makeup, so yeah. Except for the crimpling the eyelashes because my friend does that sometimes. Anyways, as I debated the pros and cons of the French twist, my hair apparently being the most difficult endeavor thus far, I turned to the woman. How about this? I grabbed the clip and a ribbon from the vanity, gathering my hair in a twist and clipping it to the side of my head. I pulled the rest into a pile of tumbled curls that fell down my shoulder and tied it in place with the ribbon. My friend did this for last year's winter formal. If it's stupid, I can't. No, I love it, Geneva said, smiling. The other woman seized upon me yet again, and Geneva grabbed the pearl jewelry from the vanity. I looked at her as she began applying her final touch. What's this all for, anyways? Why do you guys do it? I asked. Well, we're old-fashioned, I would say. We we here to old traditions. This is an important night for you and Grant. Grant? I asked. She laughed, caught off guard. Grantus Totalis is a bit much, don't you think? I gave him the nickname when he was a boy. His mother died when he was small, so I raised him. Absalom wasn't much of a father to the boy. Absalom and his father? I choked. Geneva laughed and nodded as she adjusted my bangs. It just got worse and worse. You're done, dear, she said, turning me to face the mirror. I gasped in disbelief. A girl with green eyes, and long lashes looked back at me, the same expression of surprise. Her cheeks were rosy, lips plump and pink, skin like a doll's. Her hair tumbled over her shoulder, as gold as the sun. The dress was a dream, the lace delicate and sweet. "It's you, dear," Geneva said, as if reading my mind. I wouldn't have believed her if it hadn't been for the wide smile and freckles unable to mask by any amount of powder. "Geez, Ellie, you clean up nice." I turned, glaring at Xander from where he stood in the doorway. "Ready to go?" he asked. I nodded and thanked the women for their work. "If you need me, find me," Jennifer said. "Don't go off alone, unless it's with someone you trust." And smiles from her. "They'll love you." I laughed, nodding my head as Xander took my hand to lead me into the hallway. I almost forgot. She produced a pair of lace gloves from a drawer on the vanity, tucking them into my hands. "Grant will appreciate them," she said, and I nearly smiled. "You really do look ridiculous," Xander said as he led me through the winning and magnificent hall of the castle. "Oh, hey, you don't look too shabby yourself." Xander wore a trim tuxedo and white gloves. "Where are we going again?" "The grand ballroom. The entire clan is there to dissect your every word and move." He laughed at my fearful expression. "I'm kidding, sort of." Lena was right. You'll do fine. Sorry, I had a lollipop. "Grant's gonna drop dead when he sees you. Cassandra doesn't even hold a candle to you." "Cassandra?" I asked. Xander rolled his eyes. "The royal female dog of the castle." "Yeah, really. She was too eligible. She was the only eligible girl in the clan until you, of course. But you've got your match. Here we are." We're surrounded by servants in coats and pails, carrying platters and goblets of silver trays. Absalom stood at the enormous door that led into the hall and smiled. I shivered. "You look lovely, Eleanor." A pleasant surprise. "Thanks, I guess." "They'll announce you in just a moment, and I will escort you down the steps to where you and Grantus will have your first dance." "In front of everyone?" I exclaimed. Absalom raised an eyebrow. "As in customary. Then we will introduce you both as the throne, announce the date of the wedding, and commence the ball. You may retire back to your room at midnight." "But what about—" Before I could finish, she stepped through the doors. "Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce that the future wife of my son, Grantus. Please welcome her as you would welcome one of your own. I present you Miss Eleanor Isadora Hill." Xander sent me a thumbs up as he and another boy pushed open the doors. I descended the staircase. The gasp and awestruck faces and people standing around the ballroom floor greeted me as I walked down the steps. But it was a boy at the foot of them made my heart skip a beat. Not because he was handsome, which he was, unbelievably so. I didn't notice that until later. His scruffy hair and dark brown eyes held the same expression I did, one of shock, and were the same scruffy hair and brown eyes I remember seeing before the darkness had hit me years ago in the woods. He took my hand, eyes betraying his cool demeanor. Sorry. It's a pleasure, Eleanor. I'm Grantis. Shall we? Without glancing at his father, he pulled me onto the marble floor. String quartet in one corner began a slow waltz as he placed a hand on my waist and grasped my hand with his. I placed one on his shoulder and he began to lead. I have a lot of questions, I said quietly. I figured you would. By the way, you've changed a lot. He said, smiling. You have to listen, Did Geneva give you those? He asked. Moving his head toward my gloved hands, I nodded. They were my mother's. How sweet, I said softly. He glanced behind his shoulder and then back to me. Eleanor, there's a fact that a lot. There's in fact a lot you need to know. I won't let anyone other than myself be the one to tell you. All right then. When did we start? The music stopped and we separated. He bowed, I curtsied, and we walked to the grand table set at the very head of the ballroom. We'll talk tonight, after this is all done. Wow. Okay. Please join us for a night of celebration on January 1st for the wedding of Grantis and Eleanor. It is a celebration that shouldn't be missed. The Scorzing guests all felt that the need to shake our hands and give their congratulations. It was only when the last one bid their farewell that Grant and I could steal away to the foyer. We were almost to the door when Epsilon materialized, with Geneva in tow. A word, Grantis, he said. Geneva was frowning. Must I? I was looking forward to some time with Eleanor, to be honest. Yes, son, you must. Fine then, he said, and let go of my hand. I'll meet you in the West Wing, Eleanor. I nodded and brushed through the doors before anyone could stop me. The West Wing, I thought. I vaguely remember my room being in the West Wing, and headed in that direction. I thought of Grantis and his dark hair, dark eyes. He was taller, towering over me even when I wore my heels. He was slim as well, but even the tuxedo couldn't conceal his slim muscles. He was downright attractive, and I didn't yet know how I felt about that. He seemed nice enough, if not a little protective, but there was so much I had yet to know. If it didn't seem like it wasn't undeserved. Suddenly, I remembered Geneva's warning of going off alone. The halls were dark. It's silent, except for my own breathing. Pretty scary place when you thought about it. Gothic castles are rarely anything but. No, please, you promised that you'd let me live. I stopped in my tracks, pressing up myself against the wall, before rounding the corner into my hall. I lied, darling. No, if you wouldn't mind. A shrill scream was cut short by an animalistic growl. I turned to run, and was thrown against the wall. Don't move. Alright, well that was chapter 3 of My Dad Made a Deal to Save My Life. And now I'm engaged to the Vampire Prince. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, comment, like, favorite, and enjoy. Bye, my little dinosaurs. Mwah.